Hi, my name is Mark. Those who know me / follow me on social media know that I'm a big time nerd. Video games, comic books, sci-fi, and of course, manga and anime. 2 or 3 months ago, I started watching a new anime series called The Gray Man. The anime is a bit old already. It's got a good amount of years on it, but it isn't bad because of it. I kinda stopped watching it because I've been kinda busy lately. I really wanna get back into it. I'm still at the 30th episode, so please don't spoil me. The theme of the anime is about exorcism, so it's kind of dark-ish. I mean, it still has humor, and I think the balance between the two of them is really good. I totally recommend it. Even though the plot and the anime itself are pretty good, one of the things that made me keep watching it were the scores, the music that's going on with the anime. For instance, the anime takes place in Europe, the 19th century Europe. And the music that's going on really translates that well. Not only the scores sound pretty European, composition-wise, because they sound very classical, but the instruments chosen as well. We'll get more into it later. Also, composition-wise, they sound pretty dark and pretty spooky, but not cliché dark. They're just my type of compositions. And it's not just the darkness or the spookiness of it. One thing that I really liked about it, even though the themes are supposed to be kind of dark, depending on the context, they also latch on to specific vibes when it's necessary. The soundtrack for the anime was written by Wada. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And he did a really good job. I have become a fan and I will check more of his work. In this video I'll focus on 2 songs that you can hear really early on the series. They both relate to a main villain-like character, the Millennium Earl. Not the Millennium Puzzle, that's a different anime. The Millennium Earl. Visually, the Millennium Earl looks like this round, kind of old, mysterious, sleazy-looking old man. But he's a demon. He looks very dark and mysterious. And the scores I'm going to show you really translate that image well. I did a really quick transcription, and I'll be breaking them down, because I think there are some really nice composition techniques and songwriting techniques that you can learn and implement into your own song and compositions. So, here we are. Initially, I was only going to do one piece. This is kind of 2 pieces in one. One is played when the Millennium Earl appears, and the other one is a song that's sung by another character. But that character is referring to the Millennium Earl, and they're kind of similar composition-wise. The way I see it, they both use the same technique, so I thought it would be a good idea to keep both of them in. This is just a really quick transcription of both of those songs. The instruments I use aren't necessarily the exact ones that are used in the original themes, but I tried to do a simplified version, and did my own little take on it. Straight out, we can see the instruments. If you forget about the voice, and maybe the xylophones, this is a very classical arrangement. And using the harpsichord instead of a piano, for instance, is a really nice touch. It gives that very European feel I was talking about. What I like about this first theme is that the composer starts with really simple ideas. For instance, this one starts with a really simple F-sharp diminished triad. You can see the notes down here. F-sharp, A, C. And then we do the exact same pattern, the exact same triad, a half step below. And this is a very good technique to build that kind of spooky, dark kind of sound. Let's hear it. This is where the fun starts. The harpsichord keeps playing that same pattern. F-sharp diminished triad, F diminished triad. I forgot to mention it before, but you can see right here, the first piece is in 3/4, all the time. When we get to the second beat of the third repetition, a violin enters with a melody. Let's hear it. As you can see, it's a pretty haunting melody, and the violin only helps with that. And this brings us to kind of the main point of the video, which is the composer starts with really simple ideas, and then builds on them. You don't need to have this crazy melody or these crazy complex chord changes. You can build a lot around simple things. The first line is always repeating itself, no variations. And it stays like this pretty much all the way through. The same thing goes for the violin. Even though you have some variations, the melody is pretty much the same, but with a couple variations. We get the... The first part in both of them is the same. Let's hear the first version of the melody. They know what you're thinking. This F right here on the violin is green. This is muse score telling me that's a little bit too high to play on the violin. But if you hear the original piece, you can easily hear that high F on the violin. On this third little segment, the melody starts like it started before. And this is probably the biggest thing I like about this piece. Even though the melody stays the same, it has these little twists and variations on itself, which is super cool, because as I said before, this is the theme for the main villain of the series. He is this very shady, very mysterious character, always haunting you, and this melody kinda translates this. Tonally, it gives you this really dark vibe, but it doesn't let you rest on it. And what I mean is, every time you hear that beginning melody, your ears get used to that melody. But then, when it doesn't resolve on that same thing, which happens right here, it really gives you this suspense kind of vibe, like the character is lurking around. Let's hear the next part. This is another part that I really like. The violin shuts and you don't listen to it for a while. You still have the harpsichord playing that same line. And here I opted for a tuba. And here I opted for a tuba, a contrabass, and a French horn. They're all playing the same first note, so you get a fuller sound to start with. You're coming from a very spooky section, with the violins and the harpsichord playing that dark stuff, and not getting that full sound would sound really weak in comparison. Other than that first note, the horns mimic the harpsichord. The only difference here being, other than the harpsichord that's playing quarter notes, all the other instruments are playing eighth notes, except for the cello, because you want to get that really quick vibe, like that, 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 that. If you had a da, 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 it wouldn't sound as punchy. You really want the harpsichord line to stand out, especially the last bit. This is why I inputted the cello. If you listen to the original piece, which I'll link below, you can hear this little thrill, but it's not as straightforward as it sounds. If you play guitar or bass, especially bass players, do this a lot. And in this case, if you're playing this melody on bass on guitar and someone told you to do a thrill, you'd probably do it on the third note, because that's where that minor / diminished ambiguity is. But this is where it gets super cool. That little thrill on the third note of the triad isn't being played at the same time it's being played on the harpsichord. The third note of the F sharp diminished triad is being played in the cello with a little thrill. But it's not being played on the third beat, it's played on the second beat. And this may not sound like a big deal. This little thrill, a beat before it happens in the main melody, is a really cool anticipation to that note. Because even though you have a C right here, if you had a C sharp, to stop being an F sharp diminished triad, to be an F sharp minor triad. And even though a half step difference doesn't seem like it makes a difference, it totally makes a difference. Having this duality between an F sharp diminished triad and an F diminished triad is what makes this song so dark. Let's hear it again. And this little anticipation only makes it better. If I shift it to playing the same beat as in the melody, look what happens. As you can hear, not only did it not sound as nice because of the thrill, but that's easily fixable. It didn't give you that spooky anticipation that gives you, again, that kind of vibe like you're walking around and you have this shady kind of character lurking around you and you don't really know what's going on. Let's hear it again and hear a little bit more. As you can see, the song gets much more powerful when you get that violin melody again. The violin melody is being doubled by the oboe. I think I heard that sound when I heard the original piece. It may not be the exact same instrument, but I think it sounds cool, and it gives that extra punch to the violin melody. The harpsichord, the tuba, the cello keep playing the same thing. The only thing that's new, that's not really new, we heard it before, it's the violin melody. It comes back again to haunt us. Just as before, the melody starts the same way. The way it ends is really the variation on the melody. The melody, it's always the same. The harpsichord line is always the same. I think I'm repeating myself, but this is what I really like about this piece. It makes you feel you're in control. You think you already know what's coming next. But you don't. There's all these variations and little thrills here and there that kind of make you feel uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable like it's dissonant, but uncomfortable like you're not in control. And again, the style of composition, the sound itself, that spooky, mysterious kind of vibe only makes it affect you even further. And that's really my style of composition. Let's hear again the last variation of the melody. We've heard this melody before, even the little variation. We've heard this before, back here. The way it ends is really the showdown here. Really dark, really cool, I love it. This next part is also cool. If you have a song or a composition and you don't know where to take it, you can always try some kind of rhythmic memento. In this next section, there isn't that much melodic contact, and even harmonic contact, it's mostly simple kind of stuff. But you have this memento, you have like down, 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 down. That may be dumb by itself, but listen to it. In this section, the instruments are mostly playing at the same notes. They're playing a C, and then you go down to a B, and then you go down to a B flat, so you're going down chromatically, and then you come back to your B. You're going down, and then you go up again. And this is very cool. If you've been paying attention till now, you've noticed that the song is an F sharp minor diminished-ish. I think of it as like F sharp minor-ish. If you just think to yourself, F sharp, you're hitting a C. The C is the tritone of F sharp. So it kind of gives you this diminished feel. The vibe we had before carries on to this section. When we come to the B is a 4, so you kind of have this suspended vibe. You have this kind of F sharp sus4 kind of a thing. The way I think of it is when you reach this section, when you have a C against an internal F sharp, you're kind of carrying the vibe you had before. When you go to the B, you're kind of suspending it, you're trying to make it some kind of other sound. And it kind of happens. The note that comes next, an A sharp or a B flat, is a major third of the original F sharp. You kind of started out with this diminished kind of vibe, then you went to a suspended kind of vibe, and you ended up kind of resolving to a major chord, kind of. Let's hear it again. And then the last note, that's a B again. And it gets suspended again. And this is a really cool concept, because you can think of it two ways. You can think of it as keeping the F sharp and just going down chromatically, which is fine, lots of people do it. Or you can try and think of it as a way of reaching different vibes. For instance, let's say that you were composing a song in E minor, for instance, and you wanted to shift the song to F sharp major. You could do this kind of thing. For instance, if you're in E minor, and if for some reason you wanted to go for F sharp major, if you go, If you just go from one to the other, I mean, it kind of works even if you do. You can kind of do it without any other resources. But what we heard in this example was pretty cool. It can be in E minor, for instance, and you can go to B minor, and then go to your F sharp diminished, and then turn it into a sus4 chord, then turn it into a major chord. Even if you're not thinking much of it, I really like it. Let's go from this little last part to the ending part. Again, this part is not that unfamiliar. You have the exact same part as before, but you have an additional layer, an additional melody. In this case, you have this little pattern on the harpsichord, and the harpsichord isn't playing crazy stuff either. It starts off with an F minor triad, and then I have an F diminished triad, which is just a note different from the F minor triad. Then you have an E flat major triad. Then you have an E flat augmented triad. Again, you can try and think of it on different ways. You can try and think of it chromatically, or you can try to just think of it melodically. I personally like to think that the composer starts with simple ideas and then try to build around it, instead of trying to build this really crazy kind of thing. Let's hear it again and see how it compares to the latter one. I don't know about you, but that sounds really cool to me. And the end is really crazy. Let's also hear the end. I don't know how you feel about it, but to me this end part is really heavy. So what we have is pretty easy to understand if you consider the other parts. The last note played in the violin, it's an A C, and they're ending on a C. This high C is much more for a dramatic ending. Now, the crazy chord we end with, that's a really crazy polychord chord. Let's not forget, in the original piece, there's tons of instruments. I tried to play with not that many instruments because, first of all, my computer would not like if I had like 30 instruments, and also because we kind of get the idea with just a couple of instruments. Even if the chords this cello is playing and the chords this upright bass playing are maybe kind of hard to play, no one's really going to play this chord like this. This is just for video purposes and not frank computer purposes. But now, let's get to the juicy stuff. What chord is this? As I said before, if you've been paying attention, you won't be that surprised about it. The chord is an F sharp minor over C diminished. And that may kind of sound crazy if you just listen to it. That's pretty crazy. I kind of added some extra notes here and there, like I added a B. I'm not sure already what I added, but what's important here is that you kind of feel the vibe of it. When I heard the chord for the first time, I didn't know it was an F sharp minor over C diminished, but I could clearly hear the grudge between C and F sharp, and I could clearly hear the A in there. After that, it was just a matter of listening to the chord tons of times and listening to it at tons of different speeds and trying to figure it out. I know it's not completely perfect, but I think I did a good job in explaining. But I think you kind of get the point. Let's hear it from the beginning. about you, it may have sounded terrible to you, but to me it sounded pretty awesome. Finally, but not least, this is the last piece I want to show you. Unlike the letter piece that's played every time the Millennium Earl character appears or is mentioned, this piece is actually sung by another character. One of the allies of the Millennium Earl, Road, sings this song about how it tries to find people and then kinda... I can't really say, I would spoil it if you haven't seen the anime. But since the song is about that character, I thought I'd include it in. And also because it kind of follows the same principle. You start with an easy line or an easy melody, and then you start building on top of it. Don't try to make it super crazy, or trying to add the crazy harmonies, or more instruments, or more notes, just because it's kind of cool. When I was transcribing the song, for some reason I heard xylophones. They're not exactly what's there. I think it's some kind of synth, and I could probably find a closer sound to it on the MuseScore library, but that's too much work for a video like this, and the video is kind of long already. So let's listen to it. It may not sound very dark now, but trust me, we'll get there. Again, this is not difficult at all. You have a D power chord. You have a D, then you have an A. Then you have an E power chord, just a tone up. E, B. And then you kind of arpeggiate the power chord. I mean, it's just 2 notes, but... By the way, these notes are really high, because I'm using a voice kind of thing, just for continuity purposes, because the original melody is sung by a character. And again, the melody is not that hard to play, nor that complicated either. Let's listen to it. We have the same line from the instrument that's harmonically responsible. And then you build on top of it with a melody. And even the melody part of it is the same as the other melodies. The first part stays the same, and then the endings are the variations. You start with... And then again you have... The way you end that melody, or the way you resolve that melody, is what makes it special. And if you go see the melody, that's a power chord like we have below. Then you have this G sharp, which is the 3rd of E, the root note of the other power chord we have. Then we resolve on that E. Let's listen to the full voice melody part. This method of repeating notes is quite interesting, really. If you've seen the movie Coco, in the last version of the song, where he sings the song to his grandma, Miguel also doubles some notes, kind of thing that transmits emotion, and the melody kind of ends here. But I thought of a really cool way to end the melody. I'll show it to you later. Let's hear it again. I don't know if you dig the end or not, but I kind of took some poetic license, I guess. It's not really a crazy chord, it's more like F sharp over A major with a minor 6 on it. You can think of it as like ending in A major with some really bright notes. Yeah, I really dig it. I know this is kind of a different video for me to do, but I was listening to those compositions and I think, man, that sounds really good. Then after transcribing them and analyzing them a bit, it's really cool because, for me personally, I struggle with find really nice melodies. Most of the times I have some little ideas that sound good. I really like it. Composition-wise, it sounds great. And as I said before, it gives you some really good ideas. If you're like me and you're trying to write a song, and you don't have some really good melody, but you have some little parts that sound good, just use those and build around them. I'll play it one more time for you. Please, don't leave the video. Wait for the end. I have a cool giveaway and news to tell you. Play it one more time. Thank you for watching. This is kind of a different style of video for me, so please, if you like it, leave a like below and consider subscribe. This video gave me some serious hard work. Not only the transcription part of it, but also the recording part of it. But I had fun doing it anyways. I'm giving away free Skype lessons. They are limited though. If you'd like to win one free Skype lesson and discounts on future lessons, what you gotta do is very easy. Just subscribe to my channel below, turn on the notifications, follow me on Instagram and like my Facebook page, links below, and then DM me on one of the social media with screenshots proving that you've liked, subscribed, followed, all of those things. I'm trying to upload more regularly, Tuesdays and Thursdays on YouTube, and the rest of the days on Instagram. So please, comment on what kind of videos I should make and what I can improve on. I'll see you next time. Cheers!